You know what the internet needs? Another review video of the Yamaha R3. Yet here you are. It's a Yamaha R3. It's clearly written on the bike. Fine. The Yamaha R3 is Yamaha's 300cc class sport bike. It was released for the 2015 model year. It has become extremely popular in countries like Australia and the United States, where it's seen as one of the go-to beginner sports bikes. I bought this particular one last year. It's a 2016 model year. Bought it for $7,000 out the door, which is actually pretty good value. Well, that depends on what your definition of fast is. If this is your first bike, it's gonna feel stupidly quick. If you're used to riding a turbo Hayabusa, then it's gonna feel really slow. That's completely up to each individual rider. Objectively speaking, it goes from 0 to 100 kilometers in 5.5 seconds, which is as quick as a Holden Commodore V8, or slightly faster than a Honda Civic Type R. This means you'll have no trouble beating the traffic out of the lights on your commute to work. For no reason at all, here are some chickens. Yes, okay, it is pretty slow for a motorcycle. That said, this thing is famed for having pretty good and nimble handling, meaning that on a twisty mountain road, this will have no trouble keeping pace with bigger and higher engine capacitied machines. Capacitied?
Me fail English? That's impossible.
You know what I mean. I'll say, the bike has been out a few years now and it is very popular, meaning that there's a heap of aftermarket accessories available for it. There's everything you can think of, from simple slip-on exhausts to even things like Street Fighter conversion kits. So the world is your oyster if you want to spend thousands of dollars doing up a bike that only cost a few $1,000s. So far, I've managed to resist the urge to go completely mental putting stuff on this bike. As such, the only things I have done is put the slip-on exhaust on it, and I've put this really cool and not at all daggy looking luggage rack on it too. Yes, quite comfortable actually. Despite its super sport styling, it's actually not a particularly aggressive seating position, and you're more upright than you would expect. I have done long enough rides in this, up to 500 kilometers in one sitting, and was perfectly fine. My back didn't go bad, my legs didn't cramp, nothing like that. At the same time, it is a sports bike. The seat is pretty unforgiving after a couple of hours riding, so you are going to get numb arse eventually. That said, it should get you where you're going without you needing to pay for a BMW for your chiropractor at the end of it. Nah, should be pretty reliable. I've nearly 7,000 kilometers on this one now, and absolutely nothing has gone wrong. It's also pretty easy to work on, and due to the fact that the bike is so popular and has been out a few years, there are an endless amount of how-to videos on the internet and YouTube and all that. So if anything goes wrong, or if you want to do any servicing, you should be able to look it up pretty easily. Here's some bonus footage of some doggos playing in a park. Everyone loves a good doggo. That's probably unlikely. Motorcycles as a means of picking up chicks are absolutely useless. You will have no trouble attracting middle-aged men dressed in leather though. They'll come up to you, nod sagely and say, "Good little buck that." Couple of minor gripes, like guess. I mean, she only has one front brake disc, which, you know, would be better if it had two, and the R3's braking has been criticised by some people. Also, the front shocks are a little bit soft. Otherwise, I don't have any major complaints. It's a pretty unpretentious bike. It does everything you'd expect it to do, and does it well. Wait, I have thought of another... Stop it, Mindy. I have thought of another little gripe about the bike, that being that the exhaust sounds like a sewing machine. The Akrapovich, however you say that, pipe has made a bit of a difference. At the same time, it still sounds pretty tame. Now, I could take the baffle out, but that requires the strength of 10 men seemingly, and I barely have the strength of one man. When this bike came out, it was kind of the Mac Daddy, shall we say, of the 300cc scene. All of the other bikes in its class were aging at the time, but now the R3 finds itself in a different position, shall we say, where it's actually kind of the older bike now. It's been out a few years, and the Ninja 400, for example, probably spells big trouble for the little yam here. Other bikes you might want to consider if you're looking at an R3 include the Honda CBR 300, which is way down in power compared to any of the other bikes in the class, or the KTM 390s, either the Duke or the RC 390. They're very good bikes, very good to ride, but you will probably get very well acquainted with your local KTM dealer, as their build quality, it's a bit iffy, shall we say. The Kawasaki Ninja 400, well, it's faster than the R3, it's probably just as reliable as the R3, so if I was buying one now, I would probably find it difficult to walk past the Ninja 400. What? So you assume that because I ride a 300cc bike it means I just couldn't afford a bigger bike? Well, screw you, buddy. I could easily afford a bigger bike if I wanted to. The fact is, I'm still a relatively new rider. I don't want to scare the ever-loving crap out of myself, and I want something that's going to teach me the basics of riding a motorcycle pretty well, which this bike does. I'll buy a bigger bike if and when I feel like it. Dickhead.